rolling. Those windshield wipers snapping at the tempo, playing perfect rhythm with the song on the radio. I gotta keep it rolling.
What's happening, everybody, on a Friday afternoon? Is it the first Friday? It is. It's the first Friday of February, February 7th. And we need to mark this time because there are so many parts to the Colorado gig transparency law that we're going to get into. Also, lots of other states. Last night we talked about New Jersey's legislation. We talked about a DoorDash pilot program that they're doing in Georgia. We're going to be talking about Pennsylvania. We're going to be talking about the upcoming change for Florida law. Yes, Florida too. We're going to be talking about the Nebraska law. We're going to be talking about some changes to some other legislation and why we should get to your communities, to your lawmakers before other parties do. Because before I get into this piece, I want to say there's different, they can be modified a bit, but there's different approaches that the states are taking. Before they didn't really have a clue, but now it's, well, we can do this Prop 22 model. We can do this hybrid tweaked out version of Prop 22 from Seattle, the pay up legislation. We could do the New York one. All of those in their own right are failures. I know that there are people who live in those states who are, who it helps them. So if that's the case, great. But the overall in all of those states is it hurts. And honestly, it's in California, if you're getting a little support, like our friend Heidi, she does okay with Prop 22. A couple other people maybe, but really there was a day when a lot of people were. Now people are understandingly, wait, we're still getting screwed. Pay up has hurt. They say that it's a better legislation than Prop 22, but unlike the California one, pay up in Seattle and Washington state has hurt the merchants as bad as the customers that were passed along what they were supposed to be what the company was supposed to be charging, the platforms just passed it right along to the customer. $5 city council fee. It's some of the most ruthless stuff I've seen. And so if that's a better version, one thing for sure is that the businesses, the restaurants have lost tens of millions of dollars, even this last year. And not just because of different volume on the apps, but because of the new incurred fees and the new, handling of all this. And it's just a nightmare mess in most of the states that do this. But I want to talk to you guys about we're going to roll through this whole Colorado thing, but it's not going to take hours. I'm hoping that it fits a perfect audio podcast as well, and it makes an hour. Let me just shout out real quick who's in here. To anybody that is, Christopher Taylor, thank you for those memberships, buddy. Always appreciate you, bro. And Tony, the Driven Dad, are in here so far. You guys, if at each of the breaks of each part I'm going to do, leave all put your questions, and I will look before I move on to the next part. If you don't have any, that's fine. It's pretty clear. I've been doing pretty good with these bullet points. Like if you guys heard the New Jersey legislation last night, I just put that into what we need to know in a non-legal manner. And then right beneath it, I put the actual signed legislation. So you guys can click to the legislation if you want to read it, but I think my overviews are pretty tight. What we are going to talk about today is in Colorado, the laws that were enacted in June of 2024, Senate Bill 24-075 and House Bill 24-1129. One is the rideshare, and that's the TNC bill, and one is delivery, and that's the DNC bill. And so we'll go through those real quick. Actually, I'm just going to read the TNC one because the DNC one follows it, and that's for the delivery. Pretty much everything in the TNC is in the DNC, but there's a couple more things in the TNC. So when I'm reading this first one, I realize that if you don't do rideshare, this applies to you for DoorDash, Uber Eats, all of those as well. And then what else are we going to go through here? We're also going to hit on the timeline of Uber after the laws passed in June last year. Uber suing the state on January 11th. What they did 2 days prior to the court date. What the injunction court date on January 31st gave for an outcome to their lawsuit, and then all of this went into effect February 1st. It's now February 7th. That's 7 days. And I'm going to just kind of discuss where we're at. And if any Colorado people want to leave their comments in there too, obviously everybody, and if you're thinking, I don't live in Colorado, this doesn't affect me. Well, this needs a lot of dialing still, but I will say this is a much better alternative than fake benefits or active time minimum wage, because that means throttling. That means they're going to play with you even more than they already do, and all kinds of things. Here in Colorado, we asked for two things. I mean, we probably asked for a lot more, but we asked for two things. We asked for a right to challenge a deactivation by a human review. Fair, right? I mean, we know the deactivations are completely done automated now. Completely. Last night on the roundtable, we even talked about how customer support might not even have people here at some places now. And in the near future, a lot of places might not have any people. So if you can't navigate support correctly, you're not going to ever get a support agent. It's crazy. But we're going to talk about why the judge ruled what he ruled. And then we're going to go through and we're going to talk about, are these apps compliant? So let's see if we can do this in the next 53 minutes. Just like you guys, I got to get back out there and earn, but I wanted to put this piece together. What's up, Traveler? And hey, Bubba Sue, how are you guys? And Tony already said hi to you. So you guys, if you have any questions, again, if you're not in Colorado, it doesn't matter. This could come to you. Even if you're like, no, I live in New York and we already have our legislation, or no, I live in Seattle, we already have our, okay, a lot of those are being relooked at because they're trash. I was just explaining. So if you guys missed that, just go back, watch the beginning, because I was explaining how some people in those states might tell you, and they might be being dead honest, I do better under Prop 22. I do better under pay up. I do better. I don't think there's any in New York who are going to say I do better in New York City driving than I did before any of this crap. But on the other states, they will. And now we know about Nebraska. We talked last night about New Jersey. We know Pennsylvania's on our map. Georgia's piloting a DoorDash program. Florida has a menu fair pricing index happening in July. So there's a lot going on. But let's go. So today, let's see. So I already mentioned the wrongful deactivation by human. That's one of two things that we asked here in Colorado. So let's just leave that to the side, because that should make sense to all of you. If you're deactivated, and all the time, some people I'm sure know why, and they know it's just and whatever. So they just, they just say, okay, well, maybe I'll challenge it anyway. But if there's a lot of people who get deactivated who are like, well, no, I didn't. I mean, look at Nova Dasher, Marco. He literally, or Nova Hustles now, he literally was he's done 25,000 plus DoorDash deliveries, and he was deactivated on a day he didn't even turn the app on. How is that even possible? I mean, it's not possible, but how is that even possible that you don't have more than a claim? That one email should fix it. Hey, I didn't even turn the app on that day. What are you talking about? That right there should have an immediate response by DoorDash saying, we are so sorry. Crossed wires, you are back on the platform. It took him months. Anyway, so the wrongful deactivations, you have the right to challenge them here now. And if you do, it's not just being spit back into the algorithm. It's a group of people that you're actually being human reviewed by a board. So, but let's walk. I want to walk. So we've been talking all around this. We're going to go quickly through it. I want to talk real quick about Senate Bill 2475 and House Bill 241129. Remember, one is rideshare, one is delivery. These are the laws that passed in June of 2024 to go into the delivery. The DNC bill for the delivery side went into effect January 1st of this year. and the TNC side went into effect on February 1st. So they are both fully in effect now. Again, I'm just going to be reading my notes about the TNC because like I said before, there's only a couple things that only apply to the TNC in it, but everything I'm about to read also applies to the law on the DNC side of it. So this is what I'm going to be reading. If you hear something about rideshare or whatever, or passenger, and you're like, that doesn't apply to me, it does. This is all the same stuff that's in the DNC. There's just a little bit more. I don't want to go through it twice exact. But so effective transparency for drivers and consumers effective February 1st, 2025 for the TNC, January 1st, 2025 for the DNC. So disclosure to drivers at time of task offer. So distance and direction from driver's location to rider's destination or last rider's destination in shared rides. Total total payment amount TNC will pay the driver. So again, this is what they have to disclose at the time they are offering you do you want to do this? Total payment amount TNC will pay the driver, excluding tips and pass-throughs. Pass-throughs are tolls, things of that nature. Estimated mileage, total mileage for dispatch and consumer platform time. That's obviously estimated. I said it, but estimated time. Total time for dispatch and consumer platform time. Tip amount if the consumer has indicated a tip, and we will come back to that because that's one of the problems right now. But if the consumer has indicated a tip, that would also appear immediately following the ride. But let's go. So after completing a task, when driver resumes available platform time, total payment by consumer before tips, total payment to driver before tips, excluding pass-throughs, and tip amount, if any. Now, the tip amount, if any, is if it had already, we'll get back to it, but I at least want to hit on it that if you guys are not familiar with using the customer side of the app, you can let's say you go out drinking a lot, and maybe sometimes you forget to tip your driver. You can put in a pre-auth tip, like, or this is my default tip. In case I forget and don't do it that night, just tip them $10 all the time. Then you can go in and change it. It's really just about that. But that could almost be missing from this because let's just stick to what they absolutely have to do. They have to show on the screen without scrolling, and that's why they wanted the bigger font. Total payment by consumer before tips, total payment to driver before tips. So because they have that information when they take the ride. When Uber gives the ride out to the pool and a driver takes it, they're going to see the upfront transparency, but at the end of the ride, they have to see a breakdown of that at least. Now, if there is a pre-tip in there, they can see that too, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Within 24 hours, TNC must send a copy of the information to the driver via email or another accessible method for at least 1 year. So the TNC needs to, I think that they've tweaked this a bit, but it might even be every month or whatever, or at least it's an ongoing thing that you guys can check, but they have to keep your data for a year and then allow you a downloadable copy. Because as we've talked about before, like the driver that Sergio and I talked about from Portland, Oregon, who got audited, he tried to put, because this is 2 years ago when you had nothing to look back on. So he got audited and they're like, you worked full time for Uber and Lyft. Where are your receipts for all your clients last year? And he said, I don't know, go get them from Uber and Lyft, because I would have said that, Sergio, 2 years ago, you couldn't have got that. You wouldn't have that. So he was saying, he was redirecting them back to the platform. Go get it from them. Well, you're the independent contractor, so you're the responsible party. Guy ended up paying his taxes and getting fined like $5,800. So things are weird. I mean, like even the state, this was a state audit in Oregon. They should have known better. They should have known that was going to be his answer. Of course, he doesn't have that information. I mean, somebody should have told them before they go out auditing anybody, hey, the drivers can't pull that. even though they're independent contractors. So let's see. Presentation of information. Information must be clearly displayed on a single screen, so that it fit, like literally, like, rides over, it comes up and it's the whole, and it's just fits the screen. Must use a larger font and design techniques to draw attention. What the whole fight was, in case you guys are a little curious about that font thing, was they were asking for 1.5 times the font size that Uber uses throughout the app for the display screen of the breakdown, because they think that Uber plays with different size fonts. Like, we don't want people to read this, put it at the bottom, make it small print. So they were saying, well, for this, just make it 1.5 times your normal font so that it shows very clearly to people. And then monthly driver disclosures. Okay, so driver pay before expenses, driver tips before expenses, driver time spent on available, dispatch, and consumer platform time. So they want your, forgive me for using active time. I don't believe in the word, but I'm going to use it. So they want your active time on the app. They want your the time from dispatch to getting to the customer, and then they want the last phase, customer to destination. They want it all. And they're going to send it over to you, and that's a good breakdown for everybody to look at. Driver miles driven during the above time, and now again, Uber has to submit that to the IRS as well as you. So those of you playing with your taxes right now, I've been saying this, think hard before you just start throwing in a lot of extra miles. Be fair, be honest. If you didn't keep track of your miles, do your best to break it down. It's my advice, not a tax guy, but that's my advice to you. And and if you don't have if you're not using any kind of software to track your mileage, I would even go as far as to say, be on the very safe side. So if you think you did 1,000 miles this month and you broke it down for December and you're like, yeah, okay, I did 1,000, call it 700. Be extra careful and be able to explain anything you're putting on there for deductions. Driver acceptance rejection of tasks. So protection against retaliation. TNC cannot suspend or deactivate drivers based on lawful acceptance rejection of tasks, meaning they just used their power to enact independent contractor law, because they're saying acceptance rate, that's against the law for independent contractors, which I've been telling you guys, that's against the law. So if you're going to use AR against somebody and you deactivate them, that ain't going to work with us. You cannot be used. So now it even being in the app now here in Colorado is a joke. It's just meant for new drivers, because anybody, or those that don't understand this law yet, because anybody that understands knows you're not, if they even were to say, hey, your AR is getting low, you just take a screenshot of it, send it to me, Steve at Rideshare Rodeo. I'm working with a lot of people. I'll make sure they see it right away. You'll be reactivated in a minute if that's why they pull crap. So that's nice. Limiting access to driver support, ride offers, or destination preferences. So they're saying that they can't retaliate from you if or limit your access to driver support, or your ride, or give you less rides, or if you have destination preferences, they can't not use that. They can remove it from the app, but they can't use it against you. Penalties, fines, and enforcement. So here we go. I've been around. We had a couple numbers tossing. It's been the same 1,000, but I'm going to break it fully down for you because it's just a little more, and I'll tell you where it goes. So violation by TNC. So monetary damages. If the passenger's breakdown doesn't appear, and here's what you paid, here's what the driver got, and anything that they want to show for other line items that can fit on one screen nicely at the font size, that has to match the total pay that they paid, and what the driver got has to match the driver's. If it doesn't, it's $1,000 fine to Uber on each side. So if you do it, if the two don't match, then you have to pay $1,000 on the driver's side. You have to pay $1,000 on the passenger side, and you get fined $100 per violation that goes to the state. So this goes to the fund to keep all this in order, the 1,000, but they're also taking 100 on each side that didn't match, just to help fund our state with taxes, offset taxes and stuff. So $2,200 per instance that Uber doesn't follow this law. Investigation and enforcement. The division may investigate alleged violations or based on complaints. Driver makes a complaint. Driver submits. They're soon going to have a portal. Driver submits their complaint and their screenshot or however they're going to do it, and they will look into it. If they see a mismatch, they will fine Uber. So if you think you got, I already know of a couple things that got screwed around with. I've had enough people send me some screenshots. I know what's going on. And I'm about to go out today and do some, I've been doing DoorDash. I'm going to hope on a curry, but I'm also going to turn on Uber Eats today because it looks a lot different than a lot of places are seeing. Procedures established for complaints, investigations, hearings, and fines. So the investigation and enforcements, while they're coming up with this way to submit these complaints, they're also coming up with an actual procedure for how this will happen in a timely manner. None of this Uber, oh yeah, we'll make that happen in we'll take care of that in a year or two. No. These are going to be fast tracked. So good luck. And then we have the civil action for violation. Where to file? District court in the person's place of residence, location, or violation, or where TNC has a business. So for now, and always probably even once they have this portal, you can go to the district court, wherever you are that you live in, your district court, and you can file right there. Relief options, injunction relief or damages. Prevailing party may recover cost and attorney fees. So if we start a good trend here and people are only going after them when they really are due, which I already know of a couple instances where they would be. Lawyers will take this case. I know a couple in Denver. And we always plug Legal Rideshare in Chicago. But there's a couple here in Denver that will obviously take these cases, and they'll do it they'll do it for you guys for free. And they'll just do it based on the fact that they're going to win. And then they'll take a bigger chunk of what they win. But for you guys and everybody, it should be more about getting back on the platforms and getting something out of it. So cool. So a lot of these lawyers are going to be lining up just to, you want to take them to court? Let's go. That's going to be a problematic. And additional provisions. Director's rulemaking authority. Director may adopt necessary rules. Public Utilities Commission. A lot of people have asked me, why is it public utilities? It's a really good question. I don't know. I mean, it's probably because transportation is more like public and 18-wheeler and roads and things like that. I don't know. But they're putting it under the PUC, and they're doing that in most states. So TNCs remain under the commission's authority, and violations can be enforced by the commission. That was the law put into place for the delivery and transportation and rideshare world in Colorado in June of 2024, and then it was to be enacted for delivery January 1st of this year and February 1st of this year. They are both enacted. They are both fully enforceable. We're 7 days into the second one, so both are going on. So January 11th of this year, what is it? 19 days before the new law goes into effect, Uber sues Colorado. Says that Colorado has violated their their First Amendment rights. And I did a whole long piece about the 51 pages, so we won't read the whole thing, but I do have a piece I'll talk about here. Wait, before I get into that, though, I want to see if you guys had any questions here. Let me take a look. What's up, everybody? Hey, Christopher Taylor again. Thank you for those memberships. Tony, what's up? Traveler, what's up? Bubba Sue. Tony, I just tell DoorDash AI bot, you don't understand me. I need a human. Then it sends me to the next level of alleged support. Yeah, we were talking last night about, honestly, I don't have a lot of good things to say about DoorDash, but you can get to support a little quicker. Uber has a weird loop. I mean, I think they're pretty close to being gone with any support. You growing out the 80s stash? I actually am, bro. So don't make fun, man. Watch it. It's gonna be something someday, Tim. Let's see. What's up, Derek? How you doing? I have an Uber Eats story about last night I want to tell you about. Would love to. Okay. Tony says, I did a shared trip yesterday, 875 surge on original trip. Add-on gave me another 875. Pax payment totaled $35.93. My payment $45.81. What the hell is that? So somehow they weigh up. I'm so confused. Again, I need to, Tony, we need to get together. We need to do, like I said, Tony and I are in the same market, the Driven Dad. Him and I could get together and do a passenger driver thing. Where one of us calls for an Uber and the other one picks it up, and then we just see at the end of the ride they're exact. So yeah, Tremaine, I'll get to that. I will come back to your story. Let me see if I have time today because I really need to get through all this. But either way, yeah, I will. Rick, how you doing, buddy? Okay, so on January 11th, Uber sues the state of Colorado. They say that their First Amendment had been violated 2 days prior to the court date. So the court date was on Thursday, January 30th. And the judge on that day said it was going to take him some time, but early next week he would have a ruling, which would have been February 3rd, 4th, 5th. But he ended up ruling on January 31st, Friday, the next day. But 2 days prior to that Thursday, the 30th of January, on the 28th, Tuesday, the 28th of January, Uber took away driver features and did their move of trying to threaten. This is what every driver saw in the app. Uber is making important updates to the Uber Pro Rewards program to comply with Colorado SB 75. Due to the new law starting February 1st, 2025, the following Uber Pro Rewards will no longer be available in Colorado. Area Preference, Platinum Diamond, Priority Support, Gold Platinum, Premier Support, Diamond, and Extra Destination Filter, Platinum Diamond. You will still continue to have access to other great Uber Pro rewards like discounts on gas and car maintenance, 100% tuition covered at ASU, and 1 year Costco Gold Star. Okay, whatever. So you took away a lot of stuff before you even had a ruling. So they go to court on the 30th. And then we have that no First Amendment right to hide prices and profit. That's the title of this. So effective February 1st in Colorado, Uber is required to provide customers with detailed billing information, including driver pay, deductions, and the portion of the fare Uber takes. Now that includes, we all see taxes and fees always rolled together. Those have to be separated. They can't play games with that anymore because it's in those fees where things really get jacked around. And so at the time the legislation passed, Uber publicly accepted the new requirements. It negotiated the details with lawmakers and said it had nothing to hide. That is a quote. It had nothing to hide. That was Uber's quote, the whole thing. At the time the legislation passed, so they publicly noted yes, we understand in June of 2024 that next year, in January for delivery and in February for rideshare, we are going to have to comply with these new rules and laws. No problem. Okay. So that's 8 months ago. However, as the implementation date approached, Uber made an about face, rushing to court to block the rules. It argued requiring disclosing of its pricing practices violates its First Amendment rights. Now, that's the document we've been through quite a few times. And it's 51 pages. I've told you guys about it. I think it really is just to boggle your mind, because their First Amendment rights are what I was just talking about with the font size, and it just gets a little ridiculous. I understand why they had to sue. I do. I mean, like, of course you're gonna have to fight this, because even though we don't have the set active time dollar amount, how much you'll be paid, I like that. I know Tony likes that. We don't want legislation that gets in that way. You get the floor meets ceiling and everybody gets screwed anyway. But so the Colorado legislature passed 2 acts last year signed by Governor Jared Polis: the Transportation Network Company Transparency Act SB 24-075 and the Protections for Delivery Network Company Driver Act HB 24-1129. I'm going to put all these into the notes below, the links to all these, in case you guys want to go read the full legal documents. But requiring companies like Uber to disclose price and pay information for each transaction to create more transparency around the service. Uber sued Polis and Scott Moss, the state Governor Polis is of our state, and Scott Moss, the state director for the Division of Labor Standards and Statistics, on January 11th of 2025, claiming the laws compel the company to make speech it disagrees with at a time and in a manner that it finds burdensome. Okay. The January 31st injunction hearing focused on blocking the ride-hailing disclosures. So what they were asking for was, I don't think it was just an injunction until a court date. I think they were asking for a dismissal, but it had to be the injunction, and they didn't even get the injunction. So Uber claimed it had First Amendment rights to hide its prices and profit practices from the public. The court did not agree and ordered Uber to begin providing clear, exact information with every ride as mandated by the new legislation. Again, I need to tell you all this. A lot of this, I've been through it so many times, is using Colorado state independent contractor law. That is the way to go. So if you're going to talk to legislators, I can help you write some emails. But I'll tell you this: if you want to just write it on your own to your representatives or whatever, make sure you include that in there. Make sure you include in there that that you need all this information, and tell them simply to go by whatever state you're in, state X. Our independent contractor law says that they can't do this. Now, if that's where I'm saying, steve@ridesharerodeo.com. You guys want to email me or leave comments in this video below, and I will address every one of them, because I'll look into your state's independent contractor law for you and make sure they're all pretty much the same. But I mean, let's make sure before you send a letter off. But if you want, look, let's get the ball rolling, because otherwise states are going to be sold on these bad ideas. Either way, there's ideas coming to every state, even those of you who think you're not getting anything, like Texas. They had a lot of Texas people tell me, well, we won't get anything. You're getting something too. So kick back. So again, I'll put the link to the 51 page, or to the 51 pages and the 9-page court reviewing their injunction request. But I'm just going to give you the main points that we took that you need to know from the document right now, which is equitable consideration. So this was part of the judge's ruling why they couldn't have their injunction. The urgency of Uber's request is largely self-inflicted. Listen to these words very carefully. Given that it waited until just before the law's effective date to file the lawsuit, limiting the court's ability to fully evaluate the case. We have never, ever, ever seen a judge say that, because it is their right to file on January 11th. It is Uber's right to file on February 1st, February 15th, February whatever, May. They can file anytime they want. But the judge made a point of saying, and that's where I go back to that quote I was telling you guys about. We accept the rules when they go into play back in June. The judge is going back there going, dude, you accepted that. If you had a challenge, you should have dropped it then, even though it's legal for them to wait till January. He pointed out that, I'm not granting it because you did this on purpose. He's the first judge to pretty much call him out and say, you did this on purpose. So the conclusion of this all was of the judge's findings. Uber's motion for a preliminary injunction is denied because Uber failed to meet its burden of showing likely success on the merits. So that, therefore, for an injunction to go through, like, you need to be able to prove, it's almost like without a reasonable doubt, like, dude, we didn't do this and we're going to lose business because of it. And the judge needs to almost just be able to look and go, yeah, that's just BS. Let's just get that thrown out. He was saying, he's saying the likelihood of you guys winning a court case in this state is nil. So good luck. And he's like, of course I'm not going to give you this injunction. So let me see if we have any questions. So I can keep moving on with this piece where I'm at for time. Sorry, audio podcast listeners. I'm just reading through the chat to make sure that nothing to hide. Yeah, we have nothing to hide here. Just this black box that we don't even understand anymore. We literally let AI take over so that under perjury, you can hook me up to a lie detector and say, what's that algorithm doing? You could be like the head engineer of that algorithm, and you could probably get away like with a lie detector on saying, I don't know, because you probably don't know anymore. You know how you programmed it, but AI is self-learning. So here we are. The laws are in effect. What is going on in Colorado? So here is what's going on in Colorado. So February 1st came and went. Gig apps must be compliant. DoorDash. I want to say that DoorDash, the law for food went into effect January 1st. Not a DoorDash fan. I see Tim Gigwise in the chat. I know that he works for him, and Tim, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to disagree with you on DoorDash having ethics, because no. But in this case, on the 28th of December, on December 28th, DoorDash of last year, DoorDash started showing tip transparency. The full amount you're being paid on every offer seen, and then right next to it, the tip that is included in that full amount. So they started transparency 3 days early. And they've been practicing it since. So, I mean, they still have the acceptance rate, but we just heard above that they can't use it against you. Literally, it's in the law. So I don't even know why. I mean, pretty soon here, they should get rid of the tiers and everything. So here, at least in the state, I think they're just trying to figure out how to do it, because they're going to start getting hammered for this stuff. So, but DoorDash is compliant as far as I can tell so far. They're compliant. And they are being just, and they're showing everything fairly. Lyft has not really made a public statement. And I have been talking to lawmakers, state officials, all kinds of people. And it was super secretive like 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. But like this week, where I've been talking with a lot of people this whole week, there's a lot more chatter about Lyft is considering leaving the state of Colorado. They're not compliant yet, and it looks like they're not willing to be compliant. That speaks volumes to me. Now we'll have to see what they actually do, but there's a lot of people who are very involved in this who are hearing words of Lyft potentially leaving Colorado. Now, I had Gary on the podcast this week, and as Gary said, that opens up chances for a lot for new rideshare companies. Sure. I agree with Gary. It does. Now let's get to the scumbaggery of it all. Uber and Uber Eats. Uber Eats is being very strange. Tony and I did a live, Driven Dad and I did a live where we actually were talking about it in real time, what they're showing. This was on the delivery side before the February 1st date, like during January, how they were trying to show it broke down. And it's just weird. It still follows just the oddness of Uber. Because I guess in overall, I would put it this way. They're pretending to be compliant. We all know Uber tries to find their workarounds. I'm sure DoorDash will too. I'm sure that all of them will. But I feel like they're all taking Uber's lead here on what do we do? You guys are suing them. What do we do? One thing they've done is they have removed the ability to have a default tip in the customer setting. So like, again, if I go out to the bars and sometimes I close my app because I have a few drinks and I come home, you can set a default tip. Tip them $10, and then you can go in the next day and add more or whatever you want to do. But at least you don't forget to tip them. You can have a default tip set. That's gone. You can also, once the driver picks you up until the time they drop you off, you cannot tip during the ride. So you can't pre-tip, can't tip during the ride. They've removed that feature. Now, again, that's just extra work for them. That did nothing. They didn't have to do that to accommodate the law or anything. That's just extra work just to be an ass to the drivers. So they removed the ability to tip until post-trip. Now, remember, when I get to this part here, let's say that somebody's taking you to the Denver airport. The driver sees all the upfront details, what they're going to be paid, how much the customer's paying, how much they're getting. They make a decision. Yes, I'll take that. At the end of the ride, the driver is supposed to get the display screen, like I said, but here's the kicker. Also, the customer is supposed to get the display screen that fits on one screen. They are doing it, but on both sides, they have a trick already. So the reason they didn't want the tip included in this post information data that would be displayed the second the second the ride is over, the reason they didn't want the tips in there, and this is the state, was because they didn't want any reason for Uber to be able to claim processing time. Because when they sent me, let's say, the offer to, hey, do you want to take this person from this hotel to the airport? I'm seeing all the details up front. And if I take it, they already know how much I already saw too. Like I already have a screenshot before the customer's even in the car of what the customer's paying and what the customer and what the driver's making. I have that already. So that doesn't need to be processed. That's information that is just static. It's already static in the system. It would take a microsecond to produce that onto an output screen. But when you get to if I say, I'll take this ride, boom. When I get to the airport and I drop the person off, there is a 20-second or even more from a couple sources, but somebody told me even more. There's a minimal 20-second delay where it's spinning a wheel and it says processing. And then right below it, big and bright, it says rate your driver. So you see processing, you see a button that stands out that says rate your driver. And what are we all going to do if you're a passenger? You're going to rate the driver. Okay, I'm not going to wait for this to process. I'm at the airport. Rate driver, 5 stars. Let's go. Now you haven't tipped him. Are you going to go back in and tip him? Post tips are hard to get his ride share. But here's the other thing. The processing thing was not supposed to be in there. That was all established. We want what you can produce the second the trip's over. We don't want you having any claim to you need to process anything. It needs to be the information you showed them when the person ordered the damn ride. So if you guys are following, they've literally said, you know what, just keep it processing and the person will just click off the screen and rate the driver. Maybe 1 out of 100 people will wait for it to process. So you're not going to see the screen you're supposed to see by law. That's a $2,200 fine per instance. So I'm going to be putting out some information on exactly how to submit, how to make sure that, because again, also the courthouse and the online system they're creating to upload and explain discrepancies or problems, it keeps it anonymous unless Uber wants to challenge it. Uber's not going to challenge any of these. So drivers, you will be safe putting this information in. And you'll be extra safe because now they can't deactivate you for a while unless you did something seriously wrong, because they'll be on top of the fact of, no, he just submitted. And if you challenged it and you got his name, you can't deactivate him. So they've put out a net saying, no, we want all of you drivers to be transparent as possible. Show everybody, show everything, share it, make it public. You cannot be attacked by the companies. Now, there's going to be a lot of people saying, well, that's all well and good until they attack you. Well, if they do, there's a whole system in place to make them pay a lot of money and have to put you back on the platform. Can they throttle you? Can they do this? Can they do that? Can they screw around with the games they give you? Absolutely. But like I said, when I was talking about Nova Hustles, 25,000 DoorDash deliveries, he was deactivated on a day he didn't even turn the app on. So if that's possible, what are you scared about, people? Share your information. Make Uber get fined for this stuff. Because here's my thing. Whether you like the law or not, whether you're like, this law is great, it's not asking for money, this seems fair, transparency, or you think that, whatever. The law is the law. Uber acknowledged it was the law and they'd follow it. Then they challenged the law. They got denied. And now they're screwing around with it. They have now proven they will not follow the law, which is the title here. Uber understands state law, but it will not follow it. They won't follow it. And it's going to take these fines. So there are groups looking into this, but driver submissions, I'm going to get on top of that and I'll have all the information for you guys, hopefully by next week's podcast, I hope. But the other thing that I wanted to mention here today, if we had time and we have just enough, was, let's see, is this, okay. This is regarding tip baiting, and it's just my opinion, but it's my opinion after talking to lawmakers that even the laws we have here in Colorado and some of the other states that already have laws are going to be able to, you already have this challenge available to you. If you get tip baited, okay, the burden needs to lie on the delivery or transportation network platform companies tab. So if they produce to you, hey, you're going to be paid this much, this many miles, here's the details, here's how much you're going to be paid. And then they go back and pull the tip out. Well, they can do whatever they want. They can allow the customers to do that. But if they do that, they need to pay it out of their pocket. Talking to you specifically, Uber. I'd love to be talking specifically to DoorDash too, but I do know they make it a little tougher to remove a tip. However, you still could. But I do believe DoorDash still pays you the money that they showed you, even if a tip gets removed. However, we do know people who are having tips removed and they're being deactivated because they said, this customer's removed a tip a few times. Their assumption is that that person's putting in big tips and then they're removing them and they're going to deactivate you. That's there again. They don't do much. So the little they do, they need to make sure that they do it to the standards that they want to operate under. You can't say, here, this is a $20 $20 delivery. The base pay on it's $2 and the customer tipped you 18. And then when you're done, remove the 18 and say, the customer removed it. You still need to be paid that $20. If Uber wants to allow the customer to remove that money, that's their right. I would be more like DoorDash if I was Uber, and I would say, you got to call us, and after 2 or 3 times, we're suspending your account. Like, I would treat it very seriously. I wouldn't just be, and I've had to deal with this as the customer side. I wouldn't just be giving out refunds. Hey, oh yeah, your order was delivered by the wrong person. Here, let me comp that meal. Let me give you a $50 gift card. Like, they just throw money at the service to the customers at will. So if they want to do that, that's a marketing strategy. And if they want to do that, it needs to be out of their pocket. They can't be doing this to the drivers. There's a lot of things that, I don't get on board with for the driver advocacy things. I mean, I advocate for all drivers, but I have my beliefs. This one I believe in very strongly. When you're shown how much you're going to be paid as an independent contractor, and now that we have this transparency, you can't show somebody an amount and have it be like, well, the customer's tipped this, because, make sure the people, your customers, understand that when they put the tip in, it would need to be removed by a human. And good luck getting one of those at Uber, even on the customer side. But regardless, you need to email us. You need to explain what happened. Like, require what they require all the time. All the bogus crap and hoops you got to jump through. Require that from any single person that wants a tip refund. And have it be processed. But you have to pay the driver that. You do. And I've been talking to some lawmakers, and I'm like, I kind of read, like, if you read the actual legal documents I'll put below, you'll see that it's kind of implied many times. I was like, it's implied in here. Is that? And they're like, oh yeah. They're like, if somebody starts getting tip baited a lot, they're going to be able to come down and file at the courthouse as well. Now, remember, filing at the courthouse is going to be as easy as just calling any of the law firms that do cases on upfront, where they only take payment if they win. They're all over. And there's ones that do just rideshare and gig work now here. So you know what? You call one of them, they'll go down to the courthouse for you. They'll file it because they make money if you win. But you're calling Uber out on every time they do it. You're going to make them pay $2,200 for every delivery and every rideshare ride. So if the customer paid a total of $20 to go somewhere, and who cares where it is? Who cares where it's from, where it is going to? And in this case, who cares how much the driver makes? If that's what the customer pays, can you imagine Uber? Like, if Uber gets caught screwing around with these numbers at all, which they already are. They already are. In fact, they're changing some. So anyway, if they get caught screwing around with any of this, it's $1,000, $1,000, $100, $100. It's $2,200 per instance where it's violated. I mean, I know that to a lot of people, 1,000, 2,000, that's nothing to Uber. And I've said this a few times, but I'm going to say it again. If it was 1,000 or 2,000, it is nothing to Uber. When it's 1,000 or 2,200, every instance of you screwing around, and from what I've seen, they're screwing around with everybody right now. So that would mean every trip, every delivery in Denver is getting a $2,200 fine. In most cases, that's going to be 1,000 times what Uber took in from the ride or the delivery, even as the whole before distributing money. It's going to be 1,000 times that in fines on every instance. I'm going to jump back in this chat one more time, see what's going on. DD Ethics. I need to scroll to the top to see what I said. Tim, I mean, it's just because Tim, you guys give Tim credit for real. Even to you audio podcast listeners, Tim Gegwise is, he does a lot of, he fights for us over at DoorDash. He took his demotion. He was the ambassador of DoorDash for the United States, and they wanted to really kind of ream him, and they made him the janitor of DoorDash, and he still stuck around and fought. Just kidding. Tim hates DoorDash. Can't blame him. He does his own other gigs, but he's done DoorDash enough to have a view on it. But I just bust his balls sometimes on it, guys. So here's Tony in Colorado. I have been tip baited on UE and called them and got paid the tip. Of course you did. But the new thing should be call them, get paid the tip, and then go down to the courthouse with the screenshots or to the new online system, or send it to a lawyer. You can't get deactivated for it. It's in writing in the law. And that would be a retaliation. There's actual retaliation language in the law. So they are watching to see if you submit something and they retaliate, they're going to slam them down, and you're allowed to sue them now. And again, these same lawyers are going to represent you now that the doors are open to sue Uber. I mean, they're definitely going to pick and choose their cases. But as long as you have a foundation to your case, which so many people do, they're going to see lawsuits. They're going to see fines. And this is where I'll get to the point of, it is no shock to me that Lyft is at least playing with the idea of leaving Colorado. I think it's sad because they're literally going to leave, and their reasons I'm sure they'll make one up, but to everybody that knows, it's going to be like, we left Colorado because, dude, they wanted us to like be honest and transparent. So we're not going to work there anymore. That's just a sad state of affairs if your company has to say that. Like, there's no, you've burned all your bridges with your legal. You can't, it's their favors to the city and state, and their rides and things they do. Like, our officials don't care anymore. They're like, so what? They're like, that's just so we tolerate you at this point. Now there's some laws in place, idiots, and we're going to hold you to them. And so that's where we are. And this is this is the one of the bigger things that happened in this whole thing was that the judge who handled the injunction, used wording that no judge has ever used against Uber. And I really like it. Like, his findings on the case were correct anyway. I mean, in most people's opinion, the way he saw this. But the fact that twice in that 9-page reply to their 51-page lawsuit, the fact that twice he mentioned, you guys agreed to this law in 2024. We have you on record saying you're fine with it. And you're dropping a lawsuit on January 11th for a law that goes into effect in 19 days. The judge made a point of it. You knew about this in June. Again, what they did is legal. You can sue in January. You can sue in February. You can sue in May, 3 months after the law's in effect. You can do whatever you want. But the judge pointed out, you could have just sued, and you could have not made that statement that was a complete lie. And you could have just slapped your lawsuit down in June. But you did, like, you're going to wait till January. Now, he did it very safely, and he said, that does not allow me any of time for discovery to really look into this. But he was still able to say in one day. However, I don't see an injunction coming for you. Again, for an injunction, you need to prove to the judge that this isn't fair at all, and that of course you're going to win this case once it gets to court. That's the only reason they grant injunctions. It's like a stay. Like, hey, can you just let us? It's like what Uber and Lyft and the Flex Association, DoorDash, all those companies out in California got in January 31st of 2020. We were 2 months prior to the pandemic. AB5 had gone into effect in California, and you had to be an employee to work. You couldn't be an independent contractor anymore. They did some carve outs, but not many. We know tons of people, millions, who lost their careers, and they were trying to put it on Uber and Lyft too. And Uber and Lyft said, hey, we'll leave the state of California if you don't let us wait till November of 2020 to get a ballot initiative on Proposition 22. and see how that gets voted on, because we are not going to have our drivers be employees. We'll leave. The state called their bluff. They waited till like, I'm not kidding, 11:55 p.m. And at 11:55 p.m., they said, fine, we'll get you on the ballot. So Uber's used to getting their way in court. They did not only get their way, they got slapped around and asked, okay, move on. You're done. Get out of my courtroom and start following the law. And the fact that there's even undertone talk about Lyft leaving is huge. So state does collect the fine, Richard. Yes. Hey, Ed, how are you, bro? Lyft. We left because they were mean to us. It's more like Lyft. Yeah, they actually they wanted us to do this thing called honesty, and we actually don't promote that at our company. So you guys check out, if you check out Ed Van Ness, is not his channel, but there's the Taxi Stand Hour. These guys do it every Sunday morning. Check out their show. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. Get in the chat. They're super interactive with the chat. And in fact, if somebody, even Ed, you could, if somebody wants to put a link to their channel, I think it's at Taxi Stand Hour. It's been a minute, but I believe that's it. So Brian in Orlando, DoorDash is the pits here in Orlando. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So you guys, that is this piece. I'm not going to flow into other pieces because I have to get out working for today, but I wanted this to be a standalone piece. I wanted it to be an hour, and it's going to go out on the audio podcast as well. Thank you for joining. I think this summarized a lot of here it is anyway. So if you're listening on the audio podcast, it is, man, my eyes are horrible. Radio TFI USA. So it's at Radio TFI USA on YouTube. You guys, thank you for joining me today. I will keep you informed with what is going on with 9 News. I think I passed my pre-interview, and that should be recording this weekend. I'm waiting to hear back today. So this was a good run through for me before that. And we will talk soon, guys. Be safe out there. Take screenshots. Everybody take screenshots. I don't care what market you're in. Take screenshots. And if you're confused why you're taking them, send them to me. Let me tell you why you're taking them, or let's look at them. I don't even care what market you're in. Like Nebraska legislation's coming. Just dropped. Pennsylvania has some. We talked about New Jersey last night. Florida has legislation coming for gig apps. So you guys, nowhere's not going to get it now. It's all going to get it. So be involved. Transparency is where it's at. See you guys, and be safe out there.
She was just a baby. Hey, no way.